Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to tackle a massive illusion that is happening in our classrooms right now. And more importantly, we're going to give you a highly practical guide to fix it using Webb's depth of knowledge, or DOK. Look, if you're an educator, a curriculum designer, or honestly just someone fascinated by how learning actually works, you know the absolute struggle of creating truly rigorous assessments. But what if the traditional tools we've been leaning on for years are actually holding us back from unlocking true student potential? Well, let's find out. Okay, let's just dive right into this really provocative statement. Stop letting strong verbs trick you into thinking your students are actually thinking. I want you to let that sink in for a second. It is incredibly easy to be fooled by lesson plans and assessments that look fantastic, like highly rigorous on paper, just because they use impressive-sounding verbs. We've literally been trained to do this for decades, right? We hunt for that perfect verb to kick off our learning objectives. But are we actually achieving the cognitive depth we think we are? Which brings us to the absolute core question here. Are your students actually thinking, or are they just recalling? You know, you can use a heavy academic word like analyze all day long on your worksheets. You can highlight it, bold it, stick it right at the top of your rubric. But listen, if the task itself only requires a student to remember a fact they were told yesterday, you are completely stuck at the surface level. The verb might say analyze, but the actual mental action is just regurgitate. And that right there is the trap of the strong verb illusion. So, here is our roadmap for breaking free from these limitations. Today, we'll be covering 1. The strong verb illusion. 2. Shifting to mental processing. 3. Redesigning for strategic thinking. And 4. The assessment transformation. All right, let's start right at the root of the problem in section 1, the strong verb illusion, and the real danger of relying on cognitive verbs. This perfectly illustrates the paradigm shift we need to make. For the longest time, Bloom's cognitive verbs focused heavily on what students are doing, right? Identifying, describing, comparing. It's kind of like an action-oriented checklist. But Webb's DOK, it focuses entirely on how deeply they process that information. The real secret to higher-order questioning isn't found in some magical list of action verbs. It's all about the mental processing happening behind the scenes. Let's move along to section 2. Shifting to mental processing, and see how this builds our understanding of what actual cognitive work looks like when we finally move beyond the surface level. So the crucial takeaway is that to move beyond Bloom's, we literally have to analyze the specific mental processing required for every single task we hand our students. It's a total shift in perspective. Instead of asking, hey, did the student write a comparative essay? Which, is just looking at the output. We really need to ask, what specific cognitive hoops did they have to jump through to formulate the ideas in that essay? Did they just summarize 2 articles they read? Or did they have to mentally wrestle with conflicting data to form a completely original conclusion? Because that depth of processing is where true learning lives. Now that we know exactly what to look for, how do we actually redesign our curriculum across all levels to demand this deeper processing? That brings us to section 3, redesigning for strategic thinking, which is your guide to building better classroom assessments. We have to explicitly design for Webb's depth of knowledge by demanding a very precise level of work. Take a look at these 3 pillars of strategic thinking. Students absolutely must justify their reasoning, synthesize complex information, and, this is key, solve non-routine problems. Think about it. If a problem is routine, meaning they've seen exactly how to solve it a dozen times before, they aren't actually thinking strategically anymore. They're just executing a memorized script. To hit those higher DOK levels, we have to push them into unfamiliar territory. So if you want to redesign an existing assessment right now, today, just follow these 3 steps to move away from simple recall. Step 1. Analyze the required mental processing of your current prompt. You have to be brutally honest with yourself here about what the student really has to do. Step 2, demand evidence-based reasoning. Make them prove it. And step 3, require synthesis and non-routine problem solving. Force them to connect dots that aren't just explicitly connected for them in their textbooks. Let's put this into some concrete terms in section 4, the assessment transformation, as we look at moving from simple recall to strategic thinking. Let's apply this directly to an actual classroom scenario. Imagine a traditional history prompt that asks students to, quote, analyze the causes of the Civil War by listing the top 3 factors from Chapter 4. Now, it uses the strong verb analyze, but the actual mental process, it's just fetching data. It's simple recall. Now, compare that to a redesigned strategic thinking prompt. Evaluate 3 primary sources from different socioeconomic classes in the 1850s to synthesize a new argument about the economic catalysts of the Civil War, justifying your reasoning with textual evidence. See the difference? The old way tricks us with strong verbs, while the new way guarantees that students are processing deeply, handling non-routine analysis, and truly synthesizing complex information. All right, this is your call to action. Take your existing materials, take a really critical look at your rubrics, and upgrade them. We need to redesign our curriculum to demand the absolute highest level of evidence-based reasoning and complex synthesis from our students. Because here's the thing, they are entirely capable of this level of strategic thinking, but we have to be the ones to build the architecture in our assessments that actually requires them to use it. I want to leave you with this final thought to challenge your own assessments moving forward. Does your curriculum demand true synthesis or just a really good memory? Are you truly testing their strategic thinking, or are you just rewarding the students who happen to be the best at recalling facts? Think deeply about how you want to challenge your learners tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this helps you completely transform the rigor in your classroom.